Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Noland here, and tonight part 3 on my ongoing series, my brand new series, Decoding Led Zeppelin. Tonight we're going to jump a few years into the future for Led Zeppelin from the departure point of my last video. Now, as I've explained, I'm doing this entire series in a slightly different fashion. I'm not starting off with Jimmy Page's childhood or Robert Plant's childhood and slowly working up. We will be covering those things, but they will be covered as aspects to greater things accomplished with this band. That's my whole approach with this series. Now, as this series continues, I will be providing a new playlist, and it will present this series in an orderly fashion. But to tell you the truth, folks, the whole series is designed to be watched in any particular order. Now, my whole approach to this is to get away from the linear approach of some of the Led Zeppelin documentaries that have been out there. They're wonderful documentaries. I've watched them until I'm blue in the face, but all of them seem to cover basically the same old with Led Zeppelin, and there's so much more to the story of this band. And another thing before we get started tonight is just to let you know, tonight's video might be a video you might want to watch all the way to the end. Not only will I of course provide shout outs to brand new subscribers as per usual, but at that point I'm going to do a couple of channel shout outs that I think are kind of important. One of these shout outs will give you access to me in video that you do not have on this channel. So there's a hint for you right there. All right, so with all of that nonsense covered, let's get on to tonight's video. We're going to jump ahead from the point that we left off in my last video to the year 1973, and we're going to be looking at Led Zeppelin's Madison Square Garden recordings, as well as the Madison Square Garden footage in the movie The Song Remains the Same. Now, we're going to be covering the recording of one song tonight, the magnificent No Quarter. And I do want to give a shout out to Rick Jensen, one of our subscribers, who gave me this whole idea weeks ago, and I'm just now getting to it in a fashion that would fit into this new series. Now, this all started with Rick asking me my opinion. He asked me what I thought of Jimmy Page's solo on No Quarter live in the movie The Song Remains the Same. So I told him if I used that suggestion, if it fitted into my new series, I'd give him a shout out. And so thanks, Rick. I really appreciate the idea. It fit perfectly with what I'm trying to accomplish here. All right, so the recording that I'm specifically looking at tonight is not from the live album for the film, but from the film directly. Now, the recordings for this entire film were recorded on July 27th, 28th, and 29th of 1973, and of course all based on their performances at Madison Square Garden of that year. Now, one of the questions you might ask yourself, a lot of live concerts have additional stuff re-recorded so that it sounds better, right? Is this one of those films? Well, the simple answer is yes, but you know what? It's short of amazing when you watch and listen to this song, how light of a touch Led Zeppelin really approached with all of these songs as far as editing for the film went. For the most part, additional overdubs were to correct vocal anomalies, with very little, if no, depending on the song of course, additional overdubbing by Jimmy Page. Now, the live version in the film, No Quarter, it's very interesting what they did do to this though. It is an edited piece, all from the same series of concerts, except in total, this song is edited from 3 different performances. So in the first part of the song, up to the point where Robert sings "To Build a Dream for Me and You," this is all taken from their performance on the 27th of July. From that portion of the song and up to the beginning of John Paul Jones' solo on keyboards are all taken from the 29th, the third day of those series of concerts. The remainder of the song is from the 28th. Now, according to Led Zeppelin, the reason that they intercut these separate performances wasn't because there was something wrong with those performances. It's just that they cut those portions to go better with the visuals of the film. All right, so we've got it all clear, right? The performance we see in The Song Remains the Same is actually from 3 different concerts. And you can tell this by some of the editing in the last third of the song, for sure. They do a much better editing job, and they use different takes for the live album that accompanied the film. All right, so with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and compare this presentation to the original No Quarter from the album Houses of the Holy. Now, if there's anything lacking in the live performance, I would say that it's that wonderful bottom end that exists on the recording of No Quarter on the album Houses of the Holy. Not only is there more low end in the keyboards on this recording, but there's also the wonderful bass playing that he provides on the recording as well. Now, of course, live, between those 2 instruments, he has to play keyboards, doesn't he? And that leaves the band in a bit of a quandary. What happens to their low end live? Well, it isn't totally disappeared, and this is because of John Paul Jones' amazing ability at keyboards. You see, to supply the bottom end, Jonesy is using his feet. He's playing bass pedals attached to the keyboard from the old Moog Taurus bass pedal. Now, some of the intricacies of the bass playing on the album version is not present on this recording. His choices here on what to play on those bass pedals is impeccable, if not as good as the album. And like Jimmy Page often does with guitar parts with Led Zeppelin, he plays the essential notes here. Now, another thing that's important about his whole approach live here that I love is his whole approach on the keyboards, while very familiar at first, changes to almost a church organ-y approach. And of course, that goes really well with the visuals at this point in the film, doesn't it? But you know what? It shows Jonesy and what he can do with an already established theme. He's never nailed down to that theme any more than Jimmy is nailed down to any one particular guitar theme when he plays live. So when I think of the song as a whole, with this special adaptation to the keyboard approach, I have to give the live version a nod as being more interesting to listen to. Now, it's interesting, where I said that there's more bass response on the album recording, there's one area of this song where the bass response live is actually better, and that's gotta be Robert Plant's vocals. Do you notice there's a lot more low end to his voice live here? And the effects that they choose live, I prefer to the studio cut. And of course, we are treated at various times in this live version to Robert Plant's magnificent range and power of delivery. What a wonderful performance. As far as Bonzo's drumming, I could take either version here, to be honest with you. They're both magnificent. He has a couple of different approaches with the live that sound quite interesting. Now, of course, this live version also has Bonzo's drum plugged heavily into the PA system. They get some nice sound effects with some phasing as the song structure changes. Wonderful. Great job. Finally, to Rick's original question. What do I think of Jimmy Page's solo on this live version versus the solo on the magnificent Houses of the Holy? Now, everybody knows I've already listed No Quarter, the recording on Houses of the Holy, in my top 10 favorite solos of all time by Jimmy Page with Led Zeppelin, right? How does this live version hold up? Actually, it holds up quite well, and it's not the same kind of solo at all. His approach at times is completely different, and the jazzy elements are still there that I love so much on Houses of the Holy, but he goes into an almost standard pentatonic approach at times to this song, and it's wonderful. You know, capturing this solo live on this night is perfection as far as I'm concerned. This recording, No Quarter, even though stitched together by 3 different performances, all of which have been vetted to be very good performances all on their own. You know, as live performances of a song that's so well known, this has got to be one of the best live recordings of any song by any band. They cover it all here and yet manage to be different. All of them are on the top of their game in this series of recordings. All right, now the reason I'm bringing up all of this stuff tonight is that this is kind of a prequel to my next segment in Decoding Led Zeppelin. And what I mean by that is, if you remember in my last video, we left off after Led Zeppelin had just released their first album and what the critics thought of it. Well, in my next video, we're going to go about a month to 6 weeks before that time and see what Led Zeppelin accomplished on their West Coast leg of their American tour that culminated in New York City. Now, we're not talking about the 1973 series of concerts, but I thought that since these concerts are so well represented on film, we'd start off by talking about live versions tonight. But tomorrow, we're going to talk about what the road did for Led Zeppelin before their first album was ever released. It was all recorded, it was all out there, ready to be delivered to record stores, but they were still pushing and driving forward right up until that release live. And these series of concerts are quite an interesting time for Led Zeppelin because a lot was accomplished on the West Coast and then culminated on the East Coast of the United States that year. All right, so that covers it for the video for tonight. I want to thank you all for watching my videos. If you see any names here, of course, those are brand new subscribers. I always give shout outs at the end of my videos of any new subscribers. You know, the channel has grown tremendously even in the last couple of weeks, and I want to thank you all for joining the tribe. And for those of you who haven't, you know what? It's easy. You hit that subscribe to the tribe button, hit that top bell notification, and I will make sure that you'll be notified of all of my future videos. Now, I promised you also an important shout out tonight, and that's coming up, but I did want to mention the R&B show here. It's been a while since I've mentioned them, and Bruce himself has been actually doing the last few videos for the show. And you know what? Their channel has done an amazing amount of growth, especially for the size that they were even 2 weeks ago. Now, Bruce is also a subscriber to this channel as well as a consistent commenter. You can see his comments all over the place in a lot of my videos. And my second shout out tonight is for, of course, Royce in the house. Now, the reason I wanted to give you a shout out with Royce here specifically tonight, in his last couple of videos, I have been a guest on his show. And it's a chance for you guys to go on over there, give him some love, and you can see me unscripted. Now, I don't script myself out too much here other than to make sure that I've got all my notes down, and then I just kind of open my mouth and insert my foot. But by the end of my editing process, my videos are generally pretty well focused, right? But you know, the last couple of weeks, Royce has invited me over, and I've had a chance to be part of a panel discussion twice now. No script, just us commenting on whatever subject Royce has chosen to talk about that night. Now, Royce has invited me back to be part of the panel because we only got halfway through the subject in our last video there. And if everything goes right, I'll be part of the panel discussion this upcoming Sunday as well. Now, what's nice about catching that live is we can respond to your questions live there. And so I hope to see a few of you in the comment section on Sunday. All right, so that about does it for the video for tonight. I'm right in the middle of writing part 4, and I'll get that out in the next few days as well. All right, so that about covers it for tonight. I'm Michael Nolan. This is The Bottom Line, and I'll see you in my next video.